हरि ओम् सर्वेभ्यो नमस्कारः। अद्वैतचिन्तनवर्गे सर्वेषां स्वागतम्। ॐ आदिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्यासम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। व्याप्त्या प्रकटितपरब्रह्मतत्त्वं युवानं वर्षिष्ठां देवसदृशिगणैः कृतं ब्रह्मनिष्ठैः आचार्येन्द्रं करकलितचिन्मुद्रमानन्दमूर्तिं स्वात्मा रामं मुदितवदनं दक्षिणामूर्तिमीडे वटविटपि समीपे भूमिभागे निषण्णं सकलमुनिजनानां ज्ञानदातारमादा गुरुमीशं दक्षिणामूर्तिदेवं जननमरणदुःखच्छेददक्षं नमामि। चित्रं वरदरोर्ते शिष्या गुरोस्तु मौनं व्याख्यानं शिष्यास्तु छिन्नसंशया निधये सर्वविद्यानां विषजे भवरोगिणां गुरवे सर्वलोकानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्ताय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। चितोत्खनाय महेशाय वडमूलनिवासिने चित्तसच्चिदानन्दरूपाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ईश्वरदर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतम् पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्गोचरं यदा निद्रया यत्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्गुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः कल्पितदेशकालकरणं वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यविमहायोगीव यस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये यस्यैव स्फुरणं सदात्मकमसत्कल्पार्थकं भासते साक्षात् तत्त्वमसीति वेदवदचा यो बोधयत्याश्रिता यत्साक्षात्करणात् भवेत् न पुनरावृत्तिर्भवाम्भोनिधौ तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नानाच्छिद्रगडोदरस्थितमहादीपप्रभाभास्वरं ज्ञानं यस्य तु चक्षुरादिकरणद्वारा बहिस्पन्दते जानामीति तमेव भान्तमनुभात्येतत् समस्तं जगत् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। So we are the fourth stotra of the first pada. We have the first two lines we have completed. Nana chitra gada udarasthita mahadeepa prabha bhaswaram jnanam yasya tu chakshuradi dwara bahispandate. Just as light in the pot of belly of a pot, which propagates through the holes of the pot and illumines the objects outside. Same way, the Satchidananda Brahma, Atma Rupena, in the form of Atma or awareness within the body, Chakshuradi Karana Dwara, through the holes, Navadwara Puredehi. So the body is considered to be the pot, and Chakshuradi are supposed to be representing the holes in the pot. So the light going out through the pot, through the world outside to enlighten them. Same way, Jnanam, which is in the form of Yotanat, or which is lightening the object's knowledge of the object, that they also go through uses these sense organs for accessing the world outside the body. But the knowledge takes place in the body. So to explain this aspect, how it is happening in the body, in the Manasurlasa Vartika, there also Vartikakara, Suresuracharya is bringing the nadi inside the body, how it is functioning, and what are the different nadis, what are the Sushumna nadi, then Kundalini, etc. is being there. That is only a metaphorical explanation given for the knowledge taking place within the body. But our concentration is not how the body functions. That is more for the zoology or biology aspect of it. We have more into the Tattvajnana or the philosophy and the knowledge behind this. So to that explaining is Janami iti. I am knowing. I know. Or I know is that iti means like this, is the experience of that jnanam with it, which is bringing that. When we see there, I see water. Aham jalam pashyami. I am seeing water. So I know water. So Chakshuradi Karana, when the jnanam goes through the jalam or the ghada or the pot, we say that this is a pot. Idam jalam. So that is the first knowledge which is happening. And then that is what is called the Vyavasaya Jnanam or the transactional knowledge. Then there is a secondary transactional knowledge which is called the Anuvyavasaya Jnanam, which also happens simultaneously. I am knowing that I know this is pot. Not only that I know this is a pot, also there is a secondary knowledge within that action of I know the pot, that I am the knower of the pot is also shining within this. Therefore, aham janami idam jalam. Aham janami. Therefore, I know this is water. I know this is thing. That I know is the first part. That is janami iti. Tameva bandham anubhati etat samastam jagat. Only when this tameva bandham, that janami iti bhavam, that I know is the primary requirement for if sarvat etat samastam jagat, to say that this is all the world outside. For that it is mandatory that I know as a substract or the knowledge prior to the knowing of the world of objects. This is being explained in the subsequent in the Varthikas by Suresuracharya, starting from what is the waking state. Yada buddhigadaihi punyaihi preridendriyam argataha sabdadin vishayan bhunkte tada jagritam bhavet. When the knowledge in the form of Atman, through the sense organ, Chakshuradi Karana Dwara, so that is being explained here. When buddhigadaihi, it is reflected in the buddhi. Whereas in the case of Atma, there is no kartrutva, bhoktrutva, which will come later. But when it is being reflected in the mirror of intellect, there is punya is the quality of the intellect. Punya and papa means basically the what you call the tendencies or the nature of the buddhi to be in different mental mode, makeup, emotional, intellectual, logical, or spontaneous. All those type of activities are triggered by the buddhi. But the buddhi gatai, that reflected through the buddhi, prerita indriya margada. So then this, through the marga of the indriyas, through using the sense organs, propelled by the quality of the mind here, buddhi means you have to take antakarana, manobuddhi, ahankara, chitta, all those things. So when the Shuddha Chaitanya, the pure awareness, when it is reflected through the buddhigata, through the antakarana, conditioned by the punya here standing for the punya, papa, all those type of emotions of the qualities of the antakarana. Prerita means what you call conditioned by that or propelled by that. Indriya margada, using the through the sense organs. Shabdadin vishayan bhungte. Shabda, sparsha, rasa, rupa, gandha. These are the 5 sense organs. So Shabdadin is indicating Shabda, sparsha, rasa, rupa, gandha, means Shabda is sound, sparsha, touch, rasa is the taste, rupa is the vision, Shabda, sparsha, rasa, rupa, gandha is the smell. So all these 5 sense organs is qualified by the Vishaya. Therefore, Shabdadin Vishayan is the qualifier for the Vishayan. The objects per se is identified by the qualities on this. Here is something which we have to understand that. When we say we know an orange, or we know an apple, or anything for that matter, we are not actually knowing the orange, we are not knowing the apple, but we think we know the apple or we know the orange. What is orange to us is a substratum on which adjectives which can be superimposed on an object called orange is what is known, not the orange and its pure existence. For example, the color of the orange color, peel of that one is what makes us think that the shape of the orange. Or if you are tasting the orange, the taste. Or if you are touching that, it is hard or soft, whatever it is. So Shabda, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Gandha, these 5 sense organs give us a quality of certain aspects of the object called an orange. But the qualities by themselves are not orange. Those are qualities residing in the orange, and when they are all coming together in one object and it matches the definitions, then we call that quality superimposed object as orange. But what is the orange which we say? Without these qualities, we will not be able to define it. So, Shabdadin Vishayan Bhungte, when we are enjoying the Vishayan, or when we say that I know the object, or I know the car, I know the flower, everything we are not knowing the object in its purity. We are all knowing it is through the conditioning of the Shabdadin Vishayan, the adjectives of superimposed by the sense organs. Never are we in a position to know anything without adjectives. So, when the sense organs are controlled by the 5 sense organs for the world outside, tada jagaritam bhavet, when the waking world state or the grossness, when we are experiencing the world outside, the grossness is a result of the qualities observed through the five sense organs. So what we are actually knowing is limited knowledge by the limitation of the sense organs. We are not knowing the totality of the experience. But yet, for transaction world, that is enough. Therefore, the waking world is, we are happy with the waking world because transactions can take place. Never are we interested to know the reality of the waking world, and therefore, the reality of the waking world is a reflection or is a result of the qualities of the sense organs and the internal state of the mind, intellect, and the antakarana. So what we experience as the Jagrat or the waking world is actually, we are not knowing its real nature, but what we know is the conditioned knowledge by the intellect or the manobuddhi ahankara chitta, using their tendencies, using the five sense organs. So we can only sense it. It is just like today in the science also. Any experiment which they want to do, they are only measuring knowable measures of the experiment. Like it can be electromagnetic current, magnetism, heat, volume, and such measures which are known to, with the five sense organs only they can measure and they conduct experiment. So whatever is being experimented in the science is limited by the condition of the sense organs. Now, when I say sense organs, the sense organ doesn't mean that the limitation of the sense organ. It can be extended by X-rays or microscope or atomic microscope or ultrasound. Like that, we can extend our own sense organ, but the extended sense organs can only measure it. But to understand and decipher it, it has to be brought within our experiential level, limit of the colors within the level of Vibji, or if it goes to ultraviolet or infrared, we can't see. And same way, the light waves which are there, we cannot measure it with our plain eyes. It has to be within that range of the vision, with the eyes have a limitation. So when we are saying that we are experiencing the world of waking, we are really not giving much thought into an experience per se. Are we really experiencing an object as in its entirety, or is only known one aspect of this? Just like we are looking at the moon, and when we look at the moon, we are seeing always the same face of the moon. The other side of the moon is never visible from the earth. That doesn't mean the other side is not available, but always only one face of the moon is always facing the earth. Therefore, the moon's face is always there. Depending upon the shadow, we may have a full moon or a new moon. That is because of the shadow of the light of the sun. But the face which is exposing towards or looking toward the earth is always the same, and we are not knowing what is the other side. Same is the case, every experience of ours, what is projected to us, measured by our limitation of the sense organs, we experience and we are seeing. This is our world of experiences. And that is also being conditioned by the processor, or the one which makes the light and sound to merge together to say, okay, it is Patrick who is speaking, or it is Shobha who is speaking. Like that, I am identifying the sound and the name of the person because I am processing them together in my brain as this sound is belonging to this person. So that way I am making a analysis or the understanding. But what is the object in its reality is never understood. So this is what is the state of Jagrat or the waking is concerned. We have a very, very narrow bandwidth of knowing any object. Even if the science is doing the microscopic or atomic and everything, what analysis they are doing, they have to bring in within the level of the five sense organs for it to be understood. It is not that it is not measured, but at the time of measuring, the sense organs cannot function there. So what is being measured has to be transferred as either as an X-ray film or a graphical representation or a measurement of something which can be decoded by the 5 sense organs. This is the state of Jagrat state. Now when it comes to in the subtle knowledge or the Swapna here, even in this book and other books they refer only to dream, we should not limit it to dream. All subtle experiences, whether it happens in our waking, our dream, or our hallucination, or our daydreaming, or our imagination, or memory of the past, and anticipation or expectation of the future, all those things are which is called subtle in nature, which should be included in the word Swapna or the subtle experience. So samhrideshu vindriyeshu indriyeshu jagrat samskarajan pujya samskarajat puman manasan vishayan bhungte swapnavastha tada bhavet. Now samhrideshu indriyeshu eshu, that is, the samhrida means here it is withdrawn or into the what you call, these experiences are not physical in nature outside, but indriyeshu, it is still within the realm of the indriyas. Indriyas means sense organs, but it is not physical or gross in the world outside. So samhrida, it's here we have to understand withdrawn into the experiential level, but not the physicality. From the Jagrat samskarajat puman, due to the memories, samskara here is memory and impressions, generated in the waking. Because if you look at it, all our memories, all our experiences, even very name and our own identity, it is all samskarajan. Samskarajan means from experiences, what is born out of experiences of waking. So waking, somebody gave me the name Aravind, so I am known and I identify myself with the name Aravind. But that it is only an impression created by myself due to the experience of my waking, and therefore I assume myself to be that. And based on that, I have my memories. All my memories of my knowledge, my experiential knowledge, what we are showing, is a resultant of qualities and memories absorbed as experiences during waking, which are become subtle in nature due to the same indriyas are operating in them, but not externally, but into a withdrawn state of it. Manasan vishayan bhungte, and these vishayan, these objects in the memory, dream, hallucination, daydreaming, all those type of subtle experiences are manasan vishayan. They are objects only in the mind. And when it is in the mind only, because it is no physicality for the gross world to be experienced, because what we call it as shared experience, which we say that if I am seeing a dog and one of you are seeing a dog together, the same dog is a shared experience. So that is a external experience. But when I am seeing my memory a dog or an elephant, that is not shared by others. So, but my knowledge or my experience of an elephant or a dog in my experience is also a prior created experience of mine within one of my Jagrat. Without that, in my waking, if I didn't have an experience, what I am experiencing as a hallucination or imagination is where I have no knowledge where that idea has come. But the idea cannot come without a prior experience of that. So what happens is in the dream, we imagine so many things. Now, when we are expecting something for the future, what actually happens to what our expectations need not match. What we expect and project for the future is based on our knowledge of what it should be like or what it can be like. With that knowledge, we expect the outcome of tomorrow to be conditioned by this knowledge. But actually speaking, it need not 100% always be like that. There can be variations because things which are not unknown to me today can influence my tomorrow. So therefore, my tomorrow, which when I am planning or mentally calculating for tomorrow, that is only a experience of the mind before it is happening for tomorrow. In the past, we have no confusion because it's all accumulated over the past as memory and dreams or experiences. Now here also, there are very subtle difference. For example, let us assume that when we are eating an ice cream or a chocolate, in the waking, when we are experiencing the chocolate or an ice cream, even though the experience at that time is unique and maybe for the first time, let us say, assume it is the first time we are having, that creates a memory in us that this thing which I ate is an ice cream or a chocolate or anything for that matter. It is not only eating. It can be seeing, touching, sensing, feeling, all those things can come into that. I'm taking one of the examples of chocolate or an ice cream. That experience of ours in the waking and that recalling of that experience in our mind, in a memory, in the Swapna avastha or a subtle state of it, there is a heaven and hell difference between the two experiences. Even though memory may be able to recall that incident of experience, it will not give us the same experience of what is there when we are experiencing through our sense organs. This is because the sense organs' potency of contact with the objects in the waking and in the memory, there is no object. The object is also a creation of the mind. Therefore, there is no physical contact with the mind from the mind point of view of the object. So what happens is that when we compare these two things, we don't get the same experience of sweetness or the chillness of the ice cream or the flavor of the ice cream, but we get a somewhat imagined experience of the ice cream only, not the actual experience. This is the case with all our subtle experiences. Yet we are not able to differentiate between the two, in the sense that when we wake up from the dream or wake up from a hallucination or a daydreaming, we feel as if we relived that experience. Really speaking, when we are saying that we relived that experience, it is not that we relived the experience like at waking. It is totally in the mental level as a subtle experience. Therefore, the subtle experience can never be a substitute for an actual experience. But what happens in both the cases is that in both the gross experience of the waking and the subtle experience of the dream, both are mutually exclusive, and when one is being done, the other is not the other cannot exist. And therefore, what happens is that both has a nature of coming and going or being present and absent. These aspects of being present and absent make them both equal in the experiential level, because they are not becoming permanent in nature. The one who is knowing the waking and the dream, he is there, or the individual or the ego or the knowledge or the but even from the buddhi point of view, from the intellectual point of view or from the inner organ point of view, and the gross organs and the organ which assimilated the gross experiences in the waking, then also they have got differences. So the gross mind or the intellect of the waking has different capacity, and the gross intellect or the intellect is less in the subtle case. It is more of the mind and the imagination which happens in the dream state. So in the dream state, what happens is that we are ready to negate the dream as unreal. But in the case of the waking, we are not in a position to negate the waking, because the intellect refuses to bow down and say that it is not real. It is losing its own potency or the importance. Therefore, the intellect will fight us to tell that the world of waking is real. Then waking of dream, you can negate it because it is unreal. But a person who analyzes standing apart from both of them can equally make that all conditions being similar and non-permanent in nature, they are mere experiences per se, and experiences which are temporary, transient and non-permanent in nature. Therefore, both the gross and the subtle experiences are to be treated in the same way. This is what the Jagrat and Swapna is to be understood. Now comes to the Suhupti Avastha, the third state.
Question there.
Yes, please.
So then waking state, the experiences in the waking state don't exactly mean what it sounds like. So any experience relived is Swapna. All the memories, all the thoughts, and even though the dream itself is in dormant state, even these subtle objects that happen in the waking state, but it's not the pratyaksha experience. Itiva, it's recreated in the mind, and therefore it is not the real experience, and it becomes dream Swapna.
They should be treated as Swapnavat.
So then the Jagrat is exactly what does it stand for? Jagrat means not the actual physically being awake, but
no. The sense organs have Mahispandate is the word used, as if it is going outward and contacting an object. Whereas in the case of recollection or reliving or dream, the sense organs and the experiences are not felt physicality outward.
It's inward. Okay.
That is the
sense organs are still involved, but not in the same way.
Yes, sense, because what we call it as sense organs are nothing but measuring the qualities, adjectives. If it is blueness of light, blueness when it is seen an object outside, and blueness experience in an imagination or a memory, the blueness is a measure of the sense organ. In the waking, this blueness has a physicality apart from the blueness which is sensed by the sense organ. In the dream or in the imagination, the same blueness is sensed by the sense organ without physical sense object being available to it outside. Yet it can experience. That is why we are saying that it is internal.
Okay, so subtle.
Yes.
And what you said earlier about when we look at, for example, an orange, we notice all the attributes, so it is all being measured, like you said, but we don't really know the orange what it is does that mean the substratum, or is something else meant there?
Yeah, that aspect we will come to it later, but there is, what is the substratum of that existence of what the object called orange? Without the adjectives, does it have any independent existence, or if it becomes part of yourself, can it be?
Right. Okay.
Because
So
you also have got adjectives.
Right. Okay. So every object has, only the objectives are making it an object.
Right.
Of experience.
Yeah, that actually equally applies to the objects outside and the subject which is assuming to be a subject.
Right. Subject also becomes an object that way.
Yes.
Okay.
So when the qualities are removed or the adjectives are removed, there is no segregation between the subject and the object. The subject-object differentiation is attributed due to the adjectives. Without the subject and the object attribution, what is left out is Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma.
And then the subject itself is subject because of the attributes.
Then subject doesn't become any more subject.
Yeah, removing the adjectives, there is nothing left. It's just the substratum.
It becomes a substratum on which you added it. That substratum what is added as for the subject and the substratum which is added on the object are not two separate ones.
Okay.
Okay. Now the third one is the Suhupti. Yeah, Dhanyawad. Suhupti. Manaso api upasamharas pumsamharah sushuptiridi katyate. When the withdrawal of the mind totally, when the mind means mind along with the sense organs, when it is withdrawn, here we should not consider the withdrawal as a folding up. Their very existence is negated, in the sense that the mind and the sense organs has no real existential aspect in the deep sleep. Here, when you take deep sleep, a deep sleep like experiences in the dream or in the waking also should be included. So that is why in the Mandukya, especially when we are reading that, we should know that this aspect is very well explained there. We have these memories in the waking, but we don't call it as a dream. But as far as the philosophy of Advaita is concerned, that is a subtle experience, sukshma. Jagaritastano bahis prashnaha ekona vimshati mukha. So that explanation, when you look at it, anything subtle is dream, anything gross is waking, and anything without the gross and the waking is called sushupti. Eki bodhaha is the word used in the Mandukya. And same thing is explained by the upasamhara. Upasamhara means it's all folded up or withdrawn or merged into one. Non-separate existence for the individual, the mind, the ego, the sense organs, the intellect. Nothing is separate. There is only one. Manaha api upasamharaha sushupti iti katyate. When the ego, the mantakarana, that is mano buddhi ahankara chitta, the sense organs, the world of objects, because the world of objects are there as objects only when the sense organs are being there. Now you may say, a third party say, even if the person is going to sleep, the world of object is there for the outside. He may not experience it, but the objects are still there outside. Is a standard argument given by everyone for denying this statement of Vedanta, Advaita. But for whom is the question which you have to ask. We are talking our experience, we are analyzing experiences from the experiencer's point of view, not from a third party point of view. That world, but they also agree to that the objects of the dream vanish when the dreamer goes, but they refuse to accept the world of objects of the waker goes when he goes to sleep. But Advaita says that there is no difference between the objects of the world of dream and the world of waking. Both will become null and void in that state when it comes to Suhupti, because the objects of the world of the dream, where did it exist? In the mind of the dreamer. Where did he sense it? In the mind and in the antakarana. So when the antakarana and the manaha, when the mind and the antakarana is nullified in the dream, the objects of the dream has gone. Is it not the same the case with the waking? The waking is experience of the world outside, is sensed by the sense organs, and the individual, which is the internal organs of the individual, is antakarana, is mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta. That is the one which is recording the existence of that. Third, it is projected that I am the subject, the world of objects is separate from me, is also a creation of the mind and the intellect, saying that the adjectives on the one aspect makes the subject, the adjectives on the other aspect we call it as object. So subject and object are based on, dependent upon the adjectives which we are adding on the separate aspects of which one we call one as subject, the other one as object. But where does these adjectives sensed and measured? It is measured and sensed and measured by the antakarana only, using the sense organs. So when the sense organs and the mano buddhi ahankara of the waking, sense organs and the mano buddhi ahankara of the dream, all of them, when they are nullified or ekibhutaha, upasamharaha, when they are merged into a unity, that state of oneness is what is called the Suhupti. So we should understand that Suhupti is being explained in the form of non-duality. There is nothing other than the sleep. Not even the sleeper is there. The sleeper is only when the waker comes up and say that I had a good sleep. The next 2-3 months slokas it will come. So it is the waker which gives the subjective experiencer of the deep sleeper. In the deep sleep, by the one who is in the deep sleep, who comes back from the deep sleep and says that I knew nothing, I had a good sleep. From that point of view, it is a remembrance in the waking. But in the deep sleep, we cannot use any of the instrument. Neither the mind, nor the intellect, nor the ego, nor the memory, nor the sense organs, nor the body, nothing. We do not know whether we existed or not. Whether we can call ourselves as we or I or male or female, human, animal, none of the definitions as the adjectives which are there in the waking and the dream are not applicable there. So now that makes it very clear that it is in the mind intellect complex, all these adjectives have validity. And when that mind upasamhara, or when it dissolves, that state is what is called the Suhupti. The mind itself is not there to say that I am the one who is sleeping. He doesn't know whether he is a male or a female, whether he is sleeping on daytime or sleeping in the night. whether he is sleeping in a flight which is going at 800 miles per hour, or whether he is sleeping in a stationary cot in his house, nothing is known. He doesn't even identify with his physical body. That means the physical body itself has no existence in the deep sleep. But when it wakes up, prabodha samaye swatmanam evadvayam, there are two ways of looking at it. When you wake up, the world comes with you. When you wake up with the knowledge from the knowledge point of view, you know that the world is in the mind. This aspect of is what is being given by the Tasmai Sri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Sri Dakshinamurthy. That one teacher who teaches these aspects, make us analyze it, meditate upon, think about it, and apply it to our every experience of it. We will be prabodha, means that enlightened state of reality of our experiences, not deluded by our sense organs or the mind, will be the clarity which will be shining within each one of us.
Mahodaya, a question there.
Yes.
Shankara does not mention excuse me, samadhi, but what is called samadhi, where similar thing happens, the mind withdraws and then nothing is experienced. What is the difference between samadhi is in waking state, sushupti is in deep sleep? So what is the difference there?
The difference is in the two, both of these. One is natural, one is forced upon. In the case of deep sleep, it happens naturally for everyone. Whether you want it or not, you don't know when it happens. Esha devasya svabhava. That is the nature of the svabhava of the Atman, or the light of knowledge. When it wants to shine through the mind to subtle, or when it wants to shine through the gross with the gross, or when he wants to fold up everything, it is his svabhava. Okay, that is his natural way of doing it. But if in the waking, yogis have found out the method of chittavritti nirodha and followed by ekachitri, this thing, that from the multiple thoughts to tailadharavat, in one, like the oil flowing through the nozzle, single thought, in that you concentrate upon that and observe. Then you have to dissociate with yourself with the thought, and when that thought stops, you can be in a state of nirvikalpa samadhi. Nirvikalpa samadhi means vikalpa rahita. Nirvikalpa means vikalpa rahita. What is vikalpa? Thoughts. All the projections of the mind stops. Now this is a forced controlling of the mind, but there also what happens is that the state is similar as per Shankara to Suhupti, because the mind is folded there. The difference is that is done by volition, and you can come out of it volitionally. Whereas in the case of deep sleep, you have no control as to when we will slip into deep sleep or when will we wake up. There are people who are saying that, I thought I should wake up at 4 o'clock and I woke up at 4 o'clock. But they don't dare to say that, where did they think to wake up at 4 o'clock? It was in his waking. Where did he know that he has woken up at 4 o'clock? That also he is in waking at 4 o'clock. But in the deep sleep, did he think that I have to get up at 4 o'clock? He can't think. So all those things which we are talking about is from the relevance of the waking only. But he had no access to stop or begin his sleep in the deep sleep. That is a natural thing of the swabhava of the Chaitanya. So the Sushupti and Nirvikalpa Samadhi experience is the same. But in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you cannot stay there for long. You can go and you have to come out. But what happens is that in both the Nirvikalpa Samadhi and Sushupti, there is no knowledge which is arising. Knowledge of the reality will happen only in waking. Because for that you need intellect. Your intellect, with the control of the intellect, the functioning of the intellect is fully possible only in the waking. Therefore, jnana has to happen only in waking. Because we analyze all our experience of the dream, deep sleep, nirvikalpa samadhi, etc., everything from the waker's point of view. The individuality, the ego is also of the waker's problem. So the fire has to be put out where the problem is there. So therefore, only in the waking we will be able to find a solution for it. And that solution only will be a permanent solution because the problem is in waking.
Mm-hmm.
Dream was never a problem for anyone, nor deep sleep is a problem for anyone. But waking, we do not know what we are, how our experiences. All these questions happen only in the waking.
Yes.
Samadhi doesn't give an answer for these problems. It will be a state where you will be peaceful in your mind, but that doesn't generate the knowledge for the solutions of the waking.
Just escape for a temporary time.
Yeah, it is a temporary escape from the problems, that's all. That is why they say that Vittanam, those who are the greatest meditators, when they wake up or when they are disturbed from the meditating mood, they become angry. They become very perturbed or disturbed by that, the disturbances which is happening. If you really have the knowledge, nothing should disturb you. Santatmana, prasantamatmana is what the state is, what jnana is going to take you to. The most undisturbed person, Sthita Prajnasya Kavasha, if you read that slokas, you will know what type of a person is someone who is a known Brahma. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. But that doesn't happen in the case of a Samadhi. But as a practice, yes, I'm not denying that Samadhi doesn't have its own benefits. It will help the mind to know the quietness of the mind. So the observation of the mind is possible one who practices meditation. But that is not mandatory that you need to practice meditation to know your mind. You can know your mind even intellectually. And to disassociate has to happen only intellectually. By meditating, you cannot disassociate. You will only know the state of absence of the mind, not the dissociation from the mind. That is the difference between the samadhi and the sushupti.
One more question there. So when we are trying to do ekagrata, how do these subtle objects called thoughts, memories, present themselves without?
They are all called vikalpas, or the perturbances of the thoughts of the mind. We have no control on that unless we know the reality of them. It is just like that seeing of a imaginary thing on another thing, so superimposition. We can be removed only when we know the substratum of it, whether it's a post or a ghost or a rope or a mirage or anything for that matter. Knowledge only can subside the projections. Same way, these thoughts which are coming in our mind are coming because we are not knowing the reality of who we are. Once we know our real nature, just by knowing that we are not the body, the manobuddhi ahankara chittani naham, na cha shrotra jihve, na cha grana netre, that chanting of that mantra will not give you the immediate experience of who you are. That will come only of practice in the sense that Sravanat, Mananat, Nididhyasanat eva. This is what Yajnavalkya tells Maitreyi. Are Atmava Shrotavya, Mantavya, Nididhya, Sitavya. Is what the husband tells the wife. You will know only Atma only by Shravanena, by hearing about it. Then Shrotavya, Mantavya, Nididhya, Sitavya. You have to what you have heard, you have to do the introspection of it, analyze it, and inquire into it, and make it as a conviction that yes, what you are intellectual analytical has given rise to a knowledge that what I saw was not what I am experiencing is not what I am. The experiencing of me as an individuality is not my reality. If had it been my reality, ekatma pratyaya saram, in the Mandukya says that atma, which is not the ego, ekatma pratyaya saram, the essence of the atma, which is ekaha in nature, which is there in the waker, there is there in the dreamer, there is in the deep sleeper, and you know that you had the three experiences. Therefore, you are separate from it. This analysis will make you who you are, and when that conviction takes place that I am not the one who is the one dreaming deep sleep and the dreamer and the deep sleep, I am the witness of that. Tebhyo vilakshana sakshi. When it happens, when you know that, your identification with the individuality goes, then whatever thoughts and everything will come, you will be able to see it as happening outside you. You will not be part of the thought. You will not be conditioned by the thoughts. Sukham va dukkham va, shitoshna sukha dukkha, samikritva, labha labho, jaya jayo. All those things, what does it say? You will be equanimous. Whether the happiness comes or sorrow comes or the heat comes or the cold comes, all duality you will be able to observe apart from you, not as a part of your experience. This, when it happens, then you are no more conditioned by the thoughts and everything. Even though when the thought comes, that you will be in a position to see the thoughts separate from you. That is what it says. The mirage will continue to appear, but the thirst for the water will not happen because you know the reality of the mirage. But there is no water with, so that is no more enticing you. Whereas for an animal, it will appear as water, it will run towards it unintently until it falls dead. That doesn't happen to the one who has nididhyasana and knowledge about the reality.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, now there are another 7, I think 10 more slokas. We will take it in the next class. Here it is saying that Satchidananda Rupa. So we have explained the Jagrat, Swapna, Suhupti, which is very, very much a necessity to know the Atma Swarupa. What is the Atma Swarupa? Satchidananda Swarupa. So Prakashata. All those things are coming up in the next few slokas, Varthikas. We will analyze them in the next coming classes. Any other questions by others? Revati, we are not able to hear you. You have to come to the mic.
Now I'm clear?
No.
Hello?
Still very feeble. Either you will have to remove your gadget, which is the microphone or headphone, and directly speak to the laptop or a mobile.
No, I'm not using the phone. I'm direct speaking. It's not hearing now, Minaji?
Very feeble.
Hello? Hello?
Tell me. Tell me.
Minaji, then vikalpas will be reduced, no? It will, when we will not identify with that I, then vikalpas will be reduced. That thoughts
What
may
happens
be
is
reduced.
what happens is that vikalpa, all the thoughts get their energy when we associate with it. That is why Nanu Shochanti Pandita in the Bhagavad Gita said, no, the sorrow is an event. The event of a bad event happening to us is an event by it. But we make it sorrowful. The fullness for the sorrow gives because we think about it again and again. We revel in that sorrow. So that anushojanam happens thinking that I have this sadness in me. So you start thinking that sorrow is mine. But when happens is that when you are able to see the even bad event which has happened as an event which was unavoidable, it has happened. Now we have to move on in life. And when you look at it as an event which has happened, unaffected by that, the moment when it happened, you would have affected it because that is the nature of the mind and the sense organs. But you won't revel in it or you won't continue to revel in it. In that case, what happens is that the vikalpa, what you said is that the afterthoughts of an event doesn't linger you anymore. You are disassociating with the association of that sadness or the event.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let us stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Dhanyawada. Namaskara. Thank you all.